Chapter 27. The Siege of Kemp's House. Kemp read a strange missive written in pencil on a greasy sheet of paper. "You have been amazingly energetic and clever," this letter ran, "though what you stand to gain by it I cannot imagine. You are against me. For a whole day you have chased me. You have tried to rob me of a night's rest. But I have had food in spite of you. I have slept in spite of you. And the game is only beginning. The game is only beginning. There is nothing for it but to start the terror. This announces the first day of the terror. Port Burdock is no longer under the Queen. Tell your Colonel of Police and the rest of them. It is under me, the terror. This is day one of year one of the new epoch. The epoch of the Invisible Man. I am Invisible Man the first. To begin with the rule will be easy. The first day there will be one execution for the sake of example. A man named Kemp. Death starts for him today. He may lock himself away, hide himself away, get guards about him, put on armor if he likes. Death, the unseen death, is coming. Let him take precautions. It will impress my people. Death starts from the pillar box by midday. The letter will fall in as the postman comes along, then off. The game begins. Death starts. Help him not, my people, lest death fall upon you also. Today, Kemp is to die. Kemp read this letter twice. "It's no hoax," he said. That's his voice, and he means it. He turned the folded sheet over and saw on the address side of it the postmark Hinton Dean and the prosaic detail D to pay. He got up, leaving his lunch unfinished. The letter had come by the 1 o'clock post, and went into his study. He rang for his housekeeper and told her to go round the house at once, examine all the fastenings of the windows, and close all the shutters. He closed the shutters of his study himself. From a locked drawer in his bedroom, he took a little revolver, examined it carefully, and put it into the pocket of his lounge jacket. He wrote a number of brief notes, one to Colonel Adai, gave them to his servant to take, with explicit instructions as to a way of leaving the house. "There is no danger," he said, and added a mental reservation, "to you." He remained meditative for a space after doing this, and then returned to his cooling lunch. He ate with gaps of thought. Finally, he struck the table sharply. "We will have him," he said, "and I am the bait. He will come too far." He went up the belvedere, carefully shutting every door after him. "It's a game," he said, "an odd game, but the chances are all for me. Mr. Griffin, in spite of your invisibility, Griffin, contra mundum, with a vengeance." He stood at the window, staring at the hot hillside. He must get food every day, and I don't envy him. Did he really sleep last night? Out in the open somewhere, secure from collisions. I wish we could get some good, cold, wet weather instead of the heat. He may be watching me now. He went close to the window. Something rapped smartly against the brickwork over the frame and made him start violently. "I'm getting nervous," said Kemp, but it was 5 minutes before he went to the window again. "It must have been a sparrow," he said. Presently, he heard the front doorbell ringing and hurried downstairs. He unbolted and unlocked the door, examined the chain, put it up, and opened cautiously without showing himself. A familiar voice hailed him. It was Adai. "Your servant's been assaulted, Kemp," he said round the door. "What?" exclaimed Kemp. "Had that note of yours taken away from her. He's close about here. Let me in." Kemp released the chain, and Adai entered through as narrow an opening as possible. He stood in the hall, looking with infinite relief at Kemp's refastening the door. Note was snatched out of her hand. Scared her horribly. She's down at the station. Hysterics. He's close here. What was it about? Kemp swore. What a fool I was, said Kemp. I might have known. It's not an hour's walk from Hinton Dean. Already. What's up? Said Adai. Look here, said Kemp, and led the way into his study. He handed Adai the Invisible Man's letter. Adai read it and whistled softly. And you, said Adai. Proposed a trap like a fool, said Kemp, and sent my proposal out by a maidservant to him. Adai followed Kemp's profanity. He'll clear out, said Adai. Not he, said Kemp. A resounding smash of glass came from upstairs. Adai had a silvery glimpse of a little revolver half out of Kemp's pocket. It's a window upstairs, said Kemp, and led the way up. There came a second smash while they were still on the staircase. When they reached the study, they found 2 of the 3 windows smashed, half the room littered with splintered glass, and 1 big flint lying on the writing table. The 2 men stopped in the doorway, contemplating the wreckage. Kemp swore again, and as he did so, the 3rd window went with a snap like a pistol, hung starred for a moment, and collapsed in jagged, shivering triangles into the room. What's this for? Said Adai. It's a beginning, said Kemp. There's no way of climbing up here? Not for a cat, said Kemp. No shutters? Not here. All the downstairs rooms. Hello? Smash! And then whack of boards hit hard came from downstairs. Confound him, said Kemp. That must be... Yes, it's one of the bedrooms. He's going to do all the house, but he's a fool. The shutters are up, and the glass will fall outside. He'll cut his feet. Another window proclaimed its destruction. The 2 men stood on the landing perplexed. I have it, said Adai. Let me have a stick or something, and I'll go down to the station and get the bloodhounds put on. That ought to settle him. They're hard by. Not 10 minutes. Another window went the way of its fellows. You haven't a revolver? Asked Adai. Kemp's hand went to his pocket. Then he hesitated. I haven't one, at least to spare. I'll bring it back, said Adai. You'll be safe here. Kemp handed him the weapon. Now for the door, said Adai. As they stood hesitating in the hall, they heard one of the 1st floor bedroom windows crack and clash. Kemp went to the door and began to slip the bolts as silently as possible. His face was a little paler than usual. You must step straight out, said Kemp. In another moment, Adai was on the doorstep and the bolts were dropping back into the staples. He hesitated for a moment, feeling more comfortable with his back against the door. Then he marched, upright and square, down the steps. He crossed the lawn and approached the gate. Attention, said the voice, and then fiercely, don't try any game. Remember, I can see your face if you can't see mine. You've got to go back to the house. He won't let me in, said Adai. That's a pity, said the Invisible Man. I've got no quarrel with you. Adai moistened his lips again. He glanced away from the barrel of the revolver and saw the sea far off, very blue and dark under the midday sun, the smooth green down the white cliff of the head, and the multitudinous town, and suddenly he knew that life was very sweet. His eyes came back to this little metal thing hanging between heaven and earth. Will you promise not to rush the door? I've got no quarrel with you, said the voice. Kemp had hurried upstairs after letting Adai out, and now, crouching among the broken glass and peering, closed his eyes and tried to see the source of the blinding beam. Surely, he said, Adai has given up the revolver. Promise not to rush the door, Adai was saying. The revolver vanished, flashed again into sight, vanished again, and became evident on a closer scrutiny as a little dark object following Adai. Then quiet carelessness of Adai's attitude. The afternoon was very hot and still. Nothing seemed stirring in all the world save a couple of yellow butterflies chasing. He armed himself with his bedroom poker and went to examine the interior fastenings of the ground floor windows again. Everything was safe and quiet. Of the ground floor windows again. Everything was safe and quiet. He returned to the bow and approaching. He wondered what his antagonist was doing. He started. There was a smash from below. He hesitated and went downstairs again. Suddenly, the house, the window frame, save for one crossbar, was still intact, but only little teeth of glass remained in the frame. The shutters had been driven in with an axe. The front door again. It would be the policeman. He ran into the hall, put up the chain, and drew the bolts. He made the girl speak before he dropped the chain, and the three people blundered into the house in a heap, and Kemp slammed the door again. "The invisible man," said Kemp. "He has a revolver with 2 shots left. He's killed a guy. Shot him anyhow. Didn't you see him on the lawn? He's lying there." "Who?" said one of the policemen. "A guy," said Kemp. "We came round the back way," said the girl. "What's that smashing?" asked one of the policemen. "He's in the kitchen, or will be. He has found an axe." Suddenly the house was full of the invisible man's resounding blows on the kitchen door. The girl stared towards the kitchen, shuddered, and retreated into the dining room. Kemp tried to explain in broken sentences. They heard the kitchen door give. "This way," cried Kemp, starting into activity, and bundled the policeman into the dining room hall doorway. "Poker," said Kemp, and rushed to the fender. He handed a poker to each policeman. He suddenly flung himself backward. "Whoop!" said one policeman, ducked, and caught the axe on his poker. The pistol snapped its penultimate shot and ripped a valuable Sidney Cooper. The second policeman brought his poker down on the little weapon as one might knock down a wasp. That man Kemp. "We want you," said first policeman, making a quick step forward and wiping with his poker at the voice. The invisible man must have started back. But the second policeman, aiming behind the axe with his poker, hit something soft that snapped. There was a sharp exclamation of pain, and the axe fell to the ground. The policeman wiped again. His companion rolled over and sat up with the blood running down between his eye and ear. "Where is he?" asked the man on the floor. "Don't know. I've hit a fence that abutted on the open down." In a second, he had tumbled over and was running at a tremendous pace down the slope toward. "Lord!" cried Mr. He did so. Kemp's head and shoulders and knee appeared over the edge of the garden fence. In another moment, Kemp had ploughed through the asparagus and was running across the tennis lawn to the house. "You can't come in," said Mr. Helas, shutting the bolts. "I'm very sorry if he's after you, but you can't come in." "I'm very sorry if he's after you, but you can't come in." Kemp appeared with a face of terror close to the glass, rapping and then shaking a hammer at the side door. Then he ran round by the side gate to the front of the house, and so into the hill road, and Mr. Helas staring from strides, and wherever a patch of rough ground intervened, wherever there came a patch of raw flints or a bit of broken glass shone dazzling, he crossed it and left the bare invisible fard by his own orders. But at any rate, they might have kept a lookout for an eventuality like this. The town was rising up now. The sea had dropped out of sight at him. One or two were running, and his breath was beginning to soar in his throat. The tram was quite near now, and the Jolly Cricketers was noisily barring its doors, and by an inspiration, and placed a burly group between him and the chase. Then, abandoning the idea of police station, up the street others followed, striking and shouting, down
towards the town. Men and women were running, and he noticed clearly one man coming out of a shop door with a unseen antagonist. He just managed to keep his feet, and he struck a vain counter in the air. Then he was hit again under the jaw, and sprawled headlong on the ground. In another moment, a knee suddenly got the neck and shoulders and lugged him back. Down went the heap of struggling men again, and rolled over. And there was, and then the circle of eager eyes saw the doctor kneeling, as it seemed, 15 inches in the air, and holding invisible arms to the ground behind him, and constables gripped invisible ankles. And red, he spoke thickly because of a bleeding lip. He released one hand and seemed to be feeling at the face. "The mouth's all wet," he said, and then, "Good God!" He stood up abruptly, his hands seeming to pass through empty air. "He's not breathing," he said, and then, "I can't feel his heart, his side, ugh!" Suddenly, an old woman peering under the arm of the big navvy, a hand limp and prone. It grew clouded and opaque even as they stared. "Hello!" cried the constable. "Here's his feet are showing." And so, slowly, big intricate arteries, then the flesh and skin, first a faint fogginess, and then a growing rapidly dense and opaque. Presently, they could see his crowd were white, not grey with age, but white with the whiteness of albinism, and his eyes were like garnets. His hands were clenched, his eyes wide open, and his expression. The name is the title of this story. The landlord is a short and corpulent little man with a nose of cylindrical protrusion, wiry hair, and a visible man. Took him off item when I cut and ran for Port Stowe. It's that Mr. Kemp people on with the idea of my having him. And on Sunday mornings, every Sunday morning, all the year round, while he is closed to the outer world, and every night after 10, he goes into his bar parlour bearing a glass of gin